There's Janelle.
Mill, I just said the same thing when she logged on, but my mic wasn't on. But, yeah, it was nice to see her.
Great minds think alike, Miss Stead.
Yes, I do.
Is Bob there, Meredith?
Bob is here.
I'm here.
Hey, Bob.
I'm like 40 feet from Meredith. You can't see me.
No.
Does that make me like 80 feet from you then?
That's
Does
right.
anybody think we're essential workers?
Essential commissioners.
James, what do you think?
I agree, Milt.
Sorry, Milt, just for the people it's in City Hall.
James, are you wearing slacks?
He
Are
better.
you wearing suit pants?
Suit
No
pants? Maybe that's debatable. It's a matter of perspective.
No one will ever know. All right. So Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully you had a good holiday, good New Year. I know I organized my closets. That's what I did this for the holiday. All right, so for tonight's hearing, we've got, I think, 3 items that we're expected to hear. So number 1, ZOA 20-4, code amendment. We do have some opposition, so we'll be hearing that one. Number 2, CUP 20-55 on Fairview is a conditional use permit for a drive-through window. We are recommending approval. I believe the applicant is in agreement, and so we can try that for consent.
Hey, Celine, sorry,
Yes.
I have a question. Can you please remind me, do we hear public testimony for item number 1, if there is any?
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Number 3, CUP 20-57 on State Street. It's a general exception to apply the C3 standard to a C2 parcel. We're recommending approval. The applicant's in agreement and no one else signed up in advance. CUP 20-52 is a CUP for a single family home on Franklin downtown. We were recommending approval. We can try on consent. Number 5, SOS 20-26 on Arnold Street, a waiver to curb and gutter improvements. We're recommending approval, so we can try for consent. And then number 6, CVA 20-56, variance from the front setback and maximum driveway width on Shamrock in West Boise. We are recommending denial, so we'll hear that one. We did have 1 person sign up in advance for that. And number 7, modification to a development agreement and a PUD for 40 units on Florence Drive. We are recommending approval. We did get some late correspondence and are expecting some neighborhood opposition and we did have a few people sign up. So we'll be hearing that one. So we will be hearing, at least that we know of right now, number 1, number 6, and number 7. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, good talk.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we can break for another 10 minutes and we'll see you back here at 6.
Great,
Turn
thanks.
your cameras off.
Applicant number 7 isn't showing up here, but it's, that's the CAM engineering close drive. Okay, cool. It just helps me that I know who here is going to come up to the podium.
How are you? Good.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Boise City Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you'll be called upon and unmuted. There is a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. If the chat function isn't available for you, you can email zoninginfo@cityofboise.org with any technical issues. Our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team. Then we'll go to the applicant and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association, followed by questions from the commission. After that, we proceed to public testimony, starting those with those in person. We do have a few in-person people here tonight. And then those who signed up online, and then anyone else who raises their hand virtually. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. Finally, the applicant is allowed up to 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Tonight's agenda and proceedings might have a bit of a delay as we all navigate through the technology. Please be courteous and kind while we venture through this hybrid format. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Celine. We are citizen volunteers appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We make final decisions on conditional use permits, variances, and appeals, and recommendations to the city council on subdivisions, rezones, annexations, and code or comprehensive plan amendments. Any decision made tonight might be appealed to the city council, provided that the appeal is filed within 10 days of this hearing. In order to file an appeal, you must have given written or oral testimony at tonight's meeting. So that's why it's important that you give your name and address when you testify tonight. We utilize a consent agenda. That means that if the applicant agrees with the staff report and if there is no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff, applicant, neighborhood association, and then the public testimony. Thank you all for attending tonight, and will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Squires,
Here.
Blanchard,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Finfrock,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item for consideration of the consent agenda is item number 2. This is CUP 20-55 for Twisted Sugar. It's at 10804 West Fairview Avenue, a conditional use permit for a drive-through window. Is the applicant present? Please virtually raise your hand. Hi, Jaren, and are you in agreement with the terms and the conditions of the staff report?
Yes, I am.
Great. And is there anybody present tonight who would like to testify in opposition of this item number 2? Please virtually raise your hand.
Madam Chair, we have a Jay that has a hand raised, but I believe his hand's been raised earlier. I'm just going to unmute him real quick so we can find out.
Perfect.
Oh, and it went away.
His hand's down. Okay.
Never mind. Poof, he's gone.
Okay. So seeing nobody is here to testify in opposition of this item, we'll place item number 2 onto the consent agenda. Sorry, I can't lick my fingers to turn the page, so it's just going to take me a second. Okay. The next item for consideration is item number 3. This is CUP 20-57 for new design architecture at 5310 West State Street. It's a general exception to apply the standards of the C3D zone to an adjoining acre parcel. Is the applicant present? Hi, Larry, and are you in agreement of the terms and conditions of the staff report? It looks like you're, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And is there anybody present to testify in opposition of this item tonight? Please virtually raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, then we will place item 4 on the consent agenda. And sorry, that was item number 3. on the consent agenda. The next item for consideration is item number 4. This is CUP 20-52 for Curtis McKenzie at 412 West Franklin Street. This is a conditional use permit for a single family home. Is the applicant present? Please virtually raise your hand. Hi, Kurt, and are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report?
I am.
Thank you. And is there anybody in attendance tonight who would like to testify in opposition of this item? Okay, seeing none, we will place item 4 on the consent agenda. The next item for consideration is item number 5. This is SOS 20-26 for Sawtooth Land Surveying at 9798 West Arnold Road. This is a waiver to the subdivision ordinance requirement to construct curb and gutter. Is the applicant present? Please virtually raise your hand. Looks like. Do we have anybody from Sawtooth Land Surveying on the call? Okay, so I don't see anybody here, so I'll still see. Is there anybody from the public that is here to testify in opposition of this item? Okay, seeing none, then we will place item 5 on the consent agenda, and that's the end of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer.
I move to approve the following items on the consent agenda. Item 2, item 3, item 4, and item 5.
Great, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Finfrock. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Finfrock.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great, okay, thank you. So now we're gonna start with hearing item number 1, and I will welcome Mr. Wilson as the staff to present the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'll share my screen. The City of Boise Planning Development Services is proposing an amendment to the zoning ordinance, section 110303, in relation to specific procedures. We would propose changes to the required neighborhood meeting notice, mailed notices, and site posting for specific types of applications. If you'll recall, in 2019, there was an extensive effort to revamp the way that we notify and post public hearings. There was a work group consisting of members of the community and city leadership that took a look at the way that we do things like neighborhood meetings, mailed notices, and site postings. We have been working with those changes for a year, and city leadership directed us to take a look at those improvements to the process in place and see how they're working and what additional improvements could be made. Through that process, staff has identified that there are some additional changes to the specific procedures section of the ordinance that we would like to propose. The first of those is to eliminate the 12-day waiting period to submit an administrative variance application. When applicants hold their neighborhood meeting and gather signatures for the submittal of that administrative variance application, all of the affected parties are required to sign off on that notice. So the 12-day period to wait to submit that application is unnecessary. So we propose eliminating that. We would also propose to increase the mailed notice radius to 500 feet for specific types of applications. And those are comprehensive planned land use map amendments, annexations and rezones, special exceptions, subdivisions greater than 5 acres, conditional use permits greater than 1 acre, and planned unit developments greater than 1 acre. The neighborhood meeting notice should be changed to align with the required mailed notice of the public hearing. So we would propose that change. Additionally, we would propose to increase the signs posted for Category 3 hillside grading work sessions to 4 feet by 4 feet to align with the size of signs required for annexations and rezones and planned unit developments, which often do or which are often associated with those Category 3 hillside grading sessions, so that the increase in size makes sense for those applications. And finally, we would propose eliminating posted sign requirements and mailed notice for large subdivisions within specific plan areas. These are the SP zones, such as Harris Ranch, Barber Valley, and Syringa Valley, with the idea being that these areas have gone through months, if not years, of extensive public outreach. The subdivision application is largely a technical review for agency comments and compliance with dimensional standards. And we could save city resources and staff time by eliminating the posted sign and mailed notices for those types of applications. I will note that we have received some public testimony in regards to the last item in opposition to that change. There is some included in the packet. There is some included in late correspondence, and there is a letter from the Barber Valley Neighborhood Association that, due to some technical difficulties, we did not receive prior to the hearing. So I'd like to quickly summarize the contents of that letter, and I also believe their representative is on the call tonight to speak to this. The Barber Valley Neighborhood Association recognizes that extensive previous public outreach regarding the specific plans has taken place. However, one of our observations regarding the specific plans is they can be too rigid and limit the opportunity for the city and developer to incorporate emerging best practices into city code. We believe a robust public notification process should be retained to specific plan areas to inform new neighbors in the specific plan areas of these subdivisions. That's largely a summary of their comments, but they are opposed to the final item that we would include in the amendment regarding the posted notices and mailed notices for the large subdivisions within specific plan areas. With that, the planning team does approve or recommend approval of the ordinance amendment, and the action tonight would be a recommendation to City Council. With that, I would stand for any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Wilson. So first before questions, we're going to hear from the neighborhood associations. Can I have anybody that is a designated representative of their neighborhood association who's here to speak on this item on behalf of the neighborhood to please virtually raise your hand? Great, I see one. So Mr. Moore, please go ahead. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have up to 10 minutes.
Madam Chair, I'm going to change Stephen Moore to a panelist. So Steve, you're going to drop off for just a second. We'll see you in just a second.
Hi, Steve. Looks like you're back on as a panelist, so you can unmute and even turn on your video or share your screen, whatever is best.
Oops. Lower it down here so you can see me a little bit.
Great.
Well, thank you very much, commissioners, and for the opportunity to comment on this. So we mentioned in our letter, thanks for getting that. I suppose with the holidays, things got
I'm sorry,
delayed
Mr.
a
Moore,
little
can you
bit.
start with your name and address?
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please just start with your name and address and then right into
Okay.
the testimony.
Okay, it's Steve Moore, 2920 South Shadywood Way, Boise, Idaho, representing Barber Valley Neighborhood Association.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Josh, read the first part of our letter there, and we did think highly of 3 of the 4 recommendations to kind of simplify the process. But we've just kind of noticed, even though these specific plans go on for years in the planning process, it does seem like particularly new neighbors to the area can kind of miss out on what's really going on. And just having a big sign out there does kind of get people's recognition as they're driving by. And with the new SBO3 in Syringa Valley, there's very few residents out there. So I think, it would be better to have it larger, have a little more public participation. We agree there's been a very extensive effort in SPO 1 and 2 and great plans. But as we've gone through these processes, we've still noticed sometimes there is an opportunity to make an amendment as maybe practices with planning have changed and improved over time. So it gives us a little more of an opportunity to chime in there at that point. So SPO 3 is still pretty early in the process, and I think it needs full public engagement. And if it means just having a bigger sign up there, we just think that would be helpful. And as the plan evolves, hopefully it'll get more neighborhood involvement. But that's about all I had, and appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moore. So next we'll move to questions from the commission for either staff or the neighborhood. Commissioner Gillespie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Moore, thank you for joining us. A quick question, Mr. Moore. So this is really just about subdivision applications. And as the city stated, I think correctly, when a subdivision application is made, as long as it meets the dimensional standards of and plan, it's sort of an automatic approval. In other words, we actually don't have approval criteria at the commission level as long as all of the technical requirements for the subdivision are met. So it's not a great, that particular hearing or process isn't really a great venue or process for discussing changes to a comp plan or a specifically adopted plan. So and this has come up a time or two. I think the commission will remember when we'd have a subdivision, it fit everything, but the Barber Valley Association wanted to change really what was some unrelated part of the plan. And it's hard for us to handle that. So I guess, Mr. Moore, I'm wondering is, what's your advice to the commission on this point, given that, the nature of that subdivision application?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Gillespie. I appreciate your comment there. It just seems like as these things go on for years, we've been involved with the developer pretty extensively, and as well as the planning department in these subdivisions that are coming up. And often it's kind of hard to find a point where it's good to raise our hand and participate in the process. We've done quite a bit of work on changing some of the transportation issues, bike lanes and pedestrian access to some of these areas in the subdivision. And I guess it's just hard to know where we fit in that process. So if there's a better way, we're all for it.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So kind of what you're saying, Mr. Moore, and I understand it, is that the subdivision application is like a cue card or a queuing event that helps everybody focus their minds around whatever the issue is. To answer your question, and I think other commissioners might chime in with questions or comments, but you as the neighborhood association, or really anybody, you can always come forward with a proposed amendment to any of those SPO1, SPO2 plans, right? You don't have to wait for a subdivision or a CUP in that area to bring up the issues that are on your mind. In fact, bringing it up in a subdivision hearing is kind of difficult because we can't really grapple with it usually very easily. That's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe we just need to come forth in a different venue then. We're all for that. We're just trying to, involve as many neighbors as we can. And
Sure.
this is, like you say, a way to kind of alert people.
Yeah.
Appreciate your comment.
Do we have any other questions? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Finfrock.
Thanks. I was just a question for the city. At what point would it be appropriate to kind of come forward and address these concerns, if not at this stage?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Finfrock, really I think Commissioner Gillespie did a good job of pointing out that, the neighborhoods could bring forward specific plan amendments at any time, which would have significant noticing, public outreach. Beyond that, it would really be at the formation of the specific plan during that public process, which is extensive and involves. And I think Mr. Moore was correct in pointing out that in instances like the Suringer Valley, there are probably limited folks that participate, but it does involve significant community outreach with this commission and with city leadership about that plan. So those would be the times when that public input would be more appropriate, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So next we would move on to anybody from the public who would like to testify. Do we have, if you're interested in testifying on this item tonight, please virtually raise your hand. Okay, I am seeing none. So next we would move on to a rebuttal from the applicant. Mr. Wilson, do you have any more to add based on the comments you heard?
Madam Chair, I do not. I appreciate Mr. Moore's time and comments and the commission's time as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and Mr. Moore, we definitely appreciate you coming out to be a part of the process. So thank you for that. And at this point, we will close the public portion of the hearing and the item is before the commission.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Finfrock.
I recommend. Go ahead, Milt. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Commissioner Finfrock.
I recommend approval of ZOA 20-4 along with the recommended and standard conditions of approval.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gillespie. Great. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Janelle didn't unmute fast enough, so I jumped.
Sorry.
Like the buzzer in Jeopardy. So I seconded it, but I would like to discuss, I'm very okay recommending deleting the fourth point to the city council. Although I said my piece vis-a-vis that point, I think in the end, even things that queue up neighborhood issues before the city in a funny kind of way, like they do with subdivisions, I still think it's okay because it gives people who aren't really following this process very closely an opportunity to dialogue with the city about those issues. So if the original motion maker and the council or the commission wants to, I would be more than happy to support dropping that idea of that was the fourth point that Mr. Moore didn't agree with. I just wonder what everybody thinks.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Finfrock.
Yeah, I can definitely drop that fourth point. I think that Commissioner Gillespie brings up a good point in that, anytime we provide more notice to neighborhoods or the surrounding area, I think it's always a good thing. I mean, disclosure is important, especially, sometimes I'll be walking my dog and come across a notice and read it. And I wasn't even in the vicinity to get the notice originally or even be aware of what was going on. So I definitely concur with Commissioner Gillespie.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I'm in favor of the motion. I'm also in favor of striking that fourth point as well. I think that there's absolutely no harm in the additional notifications. I understand where staff's coming from and wanting to be efficient with staff time and even applicant time for that matter. But I agree that there's certainly no harm in additional notifications and giving the community time to digest, what's happening in their neighborhood. I think that's a positive.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Moore.
I agree with the motion and with striking item number 4. Yeah, it even if it does comply entirely with the specific area plan, just giving people a chance to look at it. They might not have known that that specific area plan existed in the first place. So just more involvement, more knowledge from where they're living. And I think, yeah, never a bad thing.
Great.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
I'd like to ask Commissioner Finfrock if she would be willing to make a friendly amendment to her motion to delete the 4th point.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Finfrock.
can I please amend my motion to read that I recommend approval of ZOA 20-4 along with the recommended and standard conditions of approval with the deletion of item 4 in the staff report.
Yes. And do we have a second from Commissioner Gillespie? Great. Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, I will ask the clerk to please call the vote.
Ted,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Finfrock.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So now we're on to item number 6. This is CVA 20-56 for Renaissance Remodeling at 4425 North Shamrock Avenue, a variance from the front setback and the maximum driveway width for a proposed garage. We'll first hear from staff, and it's over to you, Ms. Rain.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the commission, the item before you contains 2 variances, one to encroach into the front setback and one to exceed the maximum driveway width for a proposed attached garage on a property located at 4425 North Shamrock Ave in an R1A BSN single family residential with Big Sky neighborhood overlay zone. The 1.03 acre lot contains an existing single family house and attached garage with a circular driveway. Parcels within the Big Sky neighborhood overlay are subject to a front setback of 35 feet compared to the typical 20-foot residential setback. And the parcel is also located in the Big Sky subdivision and is subject to platted front setback of 50 feet. The proposed third garage would sit 20 feet from the front property line. Access would be taken from pavers connecting to the existing driveway. Direct access to Shamrock is not allowed as driveways may not be closer than 50 feet to an intersection, and discussions with ACHD revealed an additional access point in this location would likely not be approved. However, the connecting driveway stub requires a second variance as the configuration exceeds the maximum driveway width of 33 feet in a front setback. There is a unique feature to the property that warrants consideration. The Marathon pipeline and associated easement crosses diagonally through the property, running just behind the southwest corner of the home towards the intersection of Shamrock and Goldenrod. While this easement does impact where an additional garage can be sited, choices are not limited to this location. The garage can be placed elsewhere on the lot without the need for a variance. As such, the planning team finds that as there are other siting options that do not require the use of any variances, there is no hardship associated with the property, nor is there an exceptional circumstance relating to the intended use of the property that is not generally applicable in the district. Further, the planning team finds that the granting of the variance would be in conflict with the comprehensive plan. Numerous goals and principles outlined in Blueprint Boise call for limited presence of garage fronts. Another goal states that development should support adopted neighborhood plans. The proposed aberration from the established setbacks of both the BSN overlay and the Big Sky subdivision plat does not align with this goal. Finally, the granting of these variances may prove detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. The non-conforming design, multiple access points, and tight angles of the driveway creates a scenario for an increased number of vehicular conflict points, particularly in the close vicinity of an intersection. It is the recommendation of the planning team to deny both variance requests. the commission makes a final decision. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Rain. We'll next hear from the applicant. You'll have 10 minutes and please start with your name and address. Celine, do you have can the applicant please virtually raise their hand so we know who to, there we go. Thank you, Tammy. We'll scoot you over to be a panelist. So hang tight for just a moment. Okay, Tammy, go ahead and unmute and you can turn on your video if you'd like or share your screen. Please start with your name and address.
Go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead. This is my husband, Ken. He'll be probably doing most of the talking. Hello?
Ken Coffey, 4425 North Shamrock Avenue, Boise, 83713.
Go ahead, guys. You'll have 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, we're getting new at this, so excuse the fumbling around here. Madam Chair and council members, please appreciate your time and letting us have the opportunity to discuss this matter with you. Crystal, a real appreciation to you with all the time that we've spent discussing this and trying to find the solutions best suited for the neighborhood and us moving forward. Thank you very much for that. What we're asking here is for the acceptance that let me back up here, Boise, or the Big Sky Neighborhood Association, in discussions with us on the best plan to add a third bay to our home was to put the garage where we have put it. The attached garage. Yeah. The neighborhood association stressed that they wanted to keep property as open as possible and therefore wanted to put the garage where it was. They were not aware of the significance of the Marathon petroleum line that crosses our property at the angle that it does, nor were they aware of the significant setbacks that we have to adhere by 16.5 feet. So the reason that we have to move the garage forward is what we're asking for is to vacate the Big Sky Neighborhood Association's variance of a 50-foot setback, but we are within the city's setback. The neighborhood association agreed with that and actually encouraged us to do this as opposed to putting it anywhere else on our property.
The one side over here.
On the north side of the property where it was suggested, my neighborhood association would not agree with that, even to consider something like that. I don't think anybody would want to see a house in their neighborhood bookended by garages. Not only that, there's a ditch that runs along the north side that we have a 9-foot setback that makes the garage over on that side completely impossible. We also have Idaho Power cable 1 lines that go north-south across the middle of our property that has 13-foot arc, I guess you can call it an easement that we have to adhere by. So that puts our property back even further than that. And when you consider something like that, we're no longer talking about an attached garage. Obviously, we're talking about a shop or something that's in the back. And for my wife and I, who bought the house just a few years ago, the reason we bought a single-story house is because this is a place we want to remain and age in place. And if we are to be asked to walk a couple of 100 feet, literally 200 feet from the garage to the house in ice, snow, rain, we feel that that's a hardship that should be taken into consideration here as well.
And we have,
The driveway widths that we're considering here are very typical for our subdivision. We are not asking for anything that a handful of photos that we have here as a PowerPoint you'll be able to scroll through and see. We're not increasing the traffic at all. It's still the two of us in the home, so there will be no more additional vehicles entering, egressing, or entering the property.
These are driveway examples.
And these are driveway examples that we'd like to present to you.
Right next door to us,
within a quarter mile of our house, within our subdivision.
Right next to our house.
These all are exceeding the 33-foot wide driveways. They're also accessing just one point. You can all see they have landscaping or a berm that we would also be adhering to. It is my position that, and my wife's desire not to sacrifice the integrity of the front elevation. We would like to add value to our home and to the subdivision. And we believe what we are doing so by using similar materials that's on the existing home. We're using Oakley stone that's found on the existing home. The siding pattern will be exactly the same. It will not be a metal building. It will not be a metal roof. It will be a shingled roof as consistent with our home. We feel that we have done what we can do within the restrictions that we're given and the hardships, the 3 hardships that we are given, to put the best structure that we can on our property.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Do we have a representative in attendance from the Neighborhood Association? Somebody who's here to speak on behalf of the Neighborhood Association tonight? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to questions from the commission for staff or for the applicant.
Did you want to say something?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Blanchard.
Question for staff. Crystal, can you walk us through the clear vision triangle there? So that
Madam,
if I heard properly, that was one of the issues, right, with the garage being up front.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Blanchard, that was not one of the issues that was discussed. They are clear of the clear vision triangle.
With the garage in that proposed spot?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Blanchard, can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Okay, so in the proposed spot, it sounded like what you were arguing was that there would be additional concerns with traffic and safety with vehicles coming in and out of that garage potentially.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Blanchard, there is no issue with the clear vision triangle. The issue that I cited is that according to code, no driveway can come within 50 feet of an intersection, and the existing driveway is already at 50 feet. So that's why there has to be the stub into the existing driveway.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, if I could have a follow-on, please.
Yes, Commissioner Blanchard.
Crystal, can you walk us through potential sightings on the property where an outbuilding could go that wouldn't have that wouldn't impact ACHD's requirements?
Madam Chair.
So where else might they be able to put the building?
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner Blanchard, the applicants could put the RV garage, albeit detached, in the rear of the property. The property is an acre. Let me see if I can share my screen to give you a view. Okay.
Awesome.
So, as seen on the screen here, the proposal is, here, this might be a little better. The proposal for the garage is here on the south side of the property. The pipeline does run through the length of it, but there could be any places back here that it could be sited, and ACHD said that they would likely approve an access point off Goldenrod.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Gillespie.
Crystal, can you run through the actual, the setback numbers again? And I don't really care, or at least maybe I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure why I should care about whatever the HOA says. I just want to know, what's the city setback requirement per our code and approved plans in the subdivision plat, and what is this building relative to that set of numbers?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, the typical setback for a residential zone is 20 feet, and I think that that's the setback that the applicant cited. However, the Big Sky overlay has a setback of 35 feet in the front. And so that would be what this variance is speaking to. The platted setback of 50 feet would be the subject of a vacation of easement and is not the subject of this case.
Madam Chairman, follow up, please.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So Crystal, how far does this proposed garage stick into that 35-foot setback?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, 15 feet.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Question for staff. Crystal, the applicant alluded to some correspondence they had with the neighborhood association, and I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything in our packet. Do we have anything from the neighborhood association that puts in writing their opinion regarding this garage?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I received, and I think I included an HOA correspondence, and apologies if I did not, that said that any decision would need to be first brought forth to the city of Boise before that they would even look at the design. That's the only correspondence I received.
Okay, and that was in our packet. So just to be clear, it seemed to me in that correspondence, they were essentially deferring to the decision by this commission and ultimately probably city council regarding this issue before they rendered a decision, correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Finfrock.
Okay, so just a little bit of clarification. So the HOA is the Big Sky neighborhood plan, is that correct? Is that one and the same?
Madam Chair.
Or I'm sorry, this question for the city, Crystal, thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, no, they're not one and the same.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Finfrock.
Additional question for Crystal. So if they're not one and the same, the Big Sky neighborhood plan put forth the plan that's now wrote into the comprehensive plan, and it's completely different from the HOA. So even if we had the HOA approval, it would have been different from the actual plan for the neighborhood. Is that what I'm hearing?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
Just really quick, there was some mention about an Idaho power easement and lateral easement, and I didn't see that in the packet. Do we have any a graphic of some sort of where those easements lie?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Moore, no, that was not included in the packets. The easements are not that were mentioned were not on the plat. I do know that there is an Idaho power easement right in the middle here, and those are the only ones that I'm aware of.
Perfect. And Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
Just a quick follow-up maybe for the applicant in reference to that lateral easement. Do you have kind of just a really quick description of where that lateral easement might lie? I know you indicated the north side.
Yeah. Is it us? Yeah. This is Chad Vincent representing Renaissance Remodeling. My office here is at 4220 North Osage Street in Boise. If you will, we spent a lot of time on this, and I appreciate everybody's patience with all this. It really, the issue starts with this diagonal through their property and where the diagonal starts going through their property for this pipeline. As a remodeler doing a lot of ADUs in the north end, Idaho Power has clamped down on us being anywhere near their power lines. Actually, that's not specifically correct. Being within 13 feet of an arc of their power lines. So as our roof goes upwards for this RV garage, our roof gets closer to this, the power lines that they will not allow us to move. So what we've been doing in the north end is having to move power lines, put additional poles in at great expense in the north end when there's no other option. And that's really what's happening here, that the diagonal force of this pipeline going through their property pushes either the garage to the front of the property or pushes a garage that's worth anything past the Idaho Power's easement. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, easement, but they will flat out not allow us to put any structure, physical piece of the structure within that 13-foot arc of that line. So what it's doing is pushing us further and further away from the house, which it would be fine if my clients wanted a shop, but really they're looking to age in place and just have a third bay of their garage. We realize it violates a few things that we've tried to figure out a better way to do this without pushing that garage further and further away from the house, and it's just not feasible.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Something to that. Commissioner Moore, you were asking about the lateral easement there.
Yes.
If it's at the north of the property line there's the dotted line there. Okay, can you? So it is, basically it starts right here. It comes actually from this property next door to the north of us. It comes across here, it makes a 90-degree turn and it comes right up all the way up here, and it's open and exposed until you get to about back in here, and then it's tiled in and it feeds the properties that are behind us right back here. The 6 llamas that are right here really enjoy that. So so there's a 9-foot easement that we have to respect all the way across this property.
For the ditch.
For the ditch that's there. And again, the power lines that are right here, so there's a 26 foot arc or 13-foot arc, but 26 feet if you go from side to side. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Seeing no further questions from the commission. And I actually, Tammy, I have you on our sign up sheet, but as the applicant, I'm going to skip you on our sign up sheet if that's okay. Okay, thank you. And then if there's anybody else from the public that would like to testify on this item tonight, please virtually raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we will move on then to, it would be time for a rebuttal from the applicant. There was no testimony against. Do you have anything else to add? You would have 5 minutes, and no, you're going to waive that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close this portion of the hearing then, and the item is before the commission.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Finfrock.
So before we even talk about like the motion itself, I just had a big question for maybe the other commissioners. Like, if the Big Sky neighborhood plan spent all that time to get it adopted into the comprehensive plan, I struggle with not maybe following the structure of the plan itself. And maybe Commissioner Gillespie can speak to this. I'm not really sure because I know he has a lot of experience in this department, but that, I think that there may be some hardships associated with this property. I struggle because, hearing after hearing, we hear the commission and the city tell these neighborhoods to go ahead and work towards getting a plan in place so that we know what they envision for their neighborhood. And so when some of these applications come before us, I would struggle with going against anything they had actually adopted into the comprehensive plan. And I'm just wondering if somebody can maybe comment to that.
Commissioner Finfrock, I think you're on the right track. I would love if we could get a motion on the table and then we can discuss it. But I think, I think you should make a motion.
Okay, let me try, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Finfrock.
I will try a motion, but
there will be plenty of discussion, don't you?
Okay. So I move to deny ZOA 20-4, and hopefully somebody will comment or have some feedback for me.
Madam Chair, I would second.
Great. A second from Commissioner Blanchard. Let's get into some robust discussion.
Madam Chair, the motion was ZOA 20-4. I think the commissioner intends CVA 2056, correct?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me, can I correct that?
Please.
I move to deny CVA 20-56.
Thank you, Commissioner Finfrock. And we still have a second from Commissioner Blanchard.
And I would second.
Great. Discussion. We know where Commissioner Finfrock lands. Are there other commissioners that would like to chime in based on it? Yes, Commissioner Gillespie.
So I think Commissioner Finfrock is correct that the adopted plan is kind of like a SP01 or SP02. In this case, it's the Big Sky plan. I think that one's been around for a while. So yeah, the 50-foot setback in that plan is, it's a real number. So that's why they're asking for a variance, basically. So the question is there enough of a hardship here, particularly with that natural gas red sash across the diagonal of the property? And so to my calculation, it comes down to is do they have a right for an attached garage? In other words, we all see that they could do it on a detached basis, but they've presented some claims for why, well, it's really a hardship for us to have to detach it. So this is an interesting one because, we're really being asked to assess the difference between an attached and detached garage. In this particular case, and like all these cases, I'm going to vote for the motion simply because I don't think we should be considering the nature of the current owner, because this variance lasts forever, right? And it's something we talk about all the time. And they may sell the house next year anyway. So the idea that, well, we want to age in place here, I understand that, but we're not directed to consider this very specific nature of the applicants in deciding if something's a hardship or not. There's a ton of flat here. There's places to put garage, so I'm going to vote for the motion.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Blanchard.
Yes, as I seconded the motion, I'll just go ahead and throw out my thoughts here. I mean, there's a whole lot of caveat emptor here. I mean, the pipeline and the electrical easements were well known when they bought the house, and if they were contemplating something like this, that again, that's really their responsibility on that. And as Commissioner Finfrock and Gillespie both noted, that we just don't have any input hardly from the neighborhood association, and no one showed up here tonight. We don't have anybody. We just really don't have anything on the record from those guys. And so, I mean, we're really bound to go by what the neighborhood worked for all these years. So we have the Big Sky overlay, and we're being asked for all these variances that just frankly don't make sense. I'm not swayed by the age in place argument. I would, if you can't walk 200 steps to your RV garage, I don't know how you'd be functional enough to use an RV that would fit in a garage that size. So that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And you wouldn't be using an RV in the snow and the ice as argued. So those arguments just don't make any sense. I think we just have to stick with the plan. And if the applicant wants to appeal to the council and bring back, or are we the final? I can't remember on this, but anyways, yeah, I think we just have to stick with the plan, hearing no input from anybody from the association.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
I agree with the motion too, and everything that Commissioner Finfrock said. The fact is, if ACHD is allowing an access off of Goldenrod, as I understand it, there is location on the property to put a garage. The easements don't restrict a garage entirely. So there is still space on the property to have one. A lot of this property isn't an alley access, but it's not uncommon in the city to have a detached garage for something very similar. And I understand that the easements and sympathetic to the restrictions imposed, but with a garage still feasible on this property, I'm in support of the motion.
Great. I'm actually going to chime in on this one too. I had the same thought as Commissioner Gillespie in that, we really try not to make decisions for the current resident of the home. These are decisions we make that last forever. And in addition, what stuck with me when reading the application was some details about the Big Sky neighborhood plan. I'm looking at Blueprint Boise on page 340 of 384 pages. It says the Big Sky neighborhood plan is to preserve the large lots and open character of the neighborhood and to retain the rural personality of this unique location. And so to me, kind of trying to cram everything up right on the sidewalk just isn't conducive with really that statement of the open character of the neighborhood and trying to maintain a rural personality to be infringing like that on the sidewalk in the street when there's such a big lot behind you. And I recognize and appreciate the character of your lot. But I hope that there will be another way to work things out. Do we have any other comments from the commission before we vote? Okay, great. I'll ask the clerk then to please call the vote.
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Renfrock.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7. This is CAR 20-20 and PUD 20-46 for CAM Engineering at 10881 West Florence Drive, a modification to a development agreement and a conditional use permit for a planned residential development. We'll start with staff and we'll first hear please from Mr. Moser.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Give me a moment while I share my screen.
You know what? Actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Moser, can we take a quick 5-minute break?
Sure.
Before
I'm
we
okay
get
with
into that? We'll just put a pin in it. Sorry, guys. We'll be back at about 3 or 4 after.
There it is.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back, everybody. It's really exciting here because it's raining so hard and we have a glass ceiling right above where we're sitting. So it's noisy, but only Commissioner Schaefer and I get to appreciate it.
It almost never leaks.
I know. Raining hard, if I can tell. Okay, so we're up to item number 7. This is CR 20-20 from KM Engineering. You're up, Mr. Moser.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the commission, give me a moment while I share the screen again. The applicant is requesting a development agreement modification and a conditional use permit for a planned residential development comprised of 40 units on approximately 2.9 acres located at 10881 West Florence Drive in an R2D/DA zone. That's a medium density residential zoning with design review, and there's a development agreement attached to it. The development agreement modification is to remove a condition from the original 2008 DA, which includes removing the 10 unit per acre limitation on density, and for the DA to reference the new conceptual site plan. As you can see here on the aerial photograph, the subject property is surrounded by residential neighborhoods, which includes a single-family residential neighborhood to the east and the south, and a multifamily residential developments to the north and west. There's also a large manufactured home community to the southwest of the site. As noted, the applicant is requesting a DA modification to remove a condition from the original DA. Please understand that this is not a rezone and the property will remain R2D DA zone. And the applicant is only requesting to remove the limitation on the density, which is a cap on that, which limits the site to 10 units an acre. The request would be to allow the property to be developed as per the density of the R2 zone. Also, the applicant requests the DA to reference the new conceptual site plan and to basically upgrade the exhibits attached to it. Essentially, it's really wants to do is to strike this one line out of the DA right here. In short, the intent of the existing DA from 2008 was for the site to provide a transition between the large lot single-family development adjacent to the east along Florence Drive and the multifamily developments to the west. In 2008, the comprehensive plan identified the surrounding neighborhood as low-density residential, about 4 units an acre, on the land use designation map. The comprehensive plan now identifies the surrounding area, including the subject property, as compact on the land use designation map, which anticipates a residential development with densities ranging up to 15 units an acre. As such, the proposed 13.5 units per acre is consistent with the current comprehensive plan, and it's below the 14.5 units per acre, which is the max allowed under the R2 zone. In addition, areas of stability and change identified within the comprehensive plan anticipate the subject property and the surrounding area will experience some infill and redevelopment. I'd finally like to note that the draft DA received by the Planning and Zoning Commission in the late correspondence memo is not the final document. The planning team will continue to work with the legal department, housing, community development, and the applicant on the document's language before it is heard before City Council. In particular, the language that references affordable housing component will need to be reconsidered. In short, the DA does not really need to reference the affordable housing component, and it does not need to be included in the DA. Also, in support of the DA modification, as you can see on the land use map, as I said before, the subject property and the whole surrounding area is designated as compact, which anticipates 15 units an acre. And sorry, and
We're all getting an Amber Alert.
okay, that's what that is. I was trying to figure what that was. So sorry, back to and there is a commercial land use zoning up along Fairview. And this is the zoning map. As you can see, the adjacent properties to the west and to the north are zoned R2 and R3. So R2 is at medium density, and then the R3 is multifamily residential density. So the proposed project is actually compatible with those adjacent zones. The proposal includes the construction of 7 multifamily buildings comprised of 6 3-story, 6-unit buildings and 1 2-story, 4-unit building for a total of 40 units. Vehicle access will be provided via a service drive that connects Florence Drive to the east and to the proposed public street of Bonanza. So essentially, it's this service drive here will provide the connection. In addition, Bonanza Street will provide connectivity between Florence on the west side down to Irving, and Bonanza will be dedicated as public right-of-way in phase 2 of the project. The project also complies and exceeds all required perimeter setbacks, which includes a 30-foot setback along the east property line here, adjacent to the single family. It complies the height requirements, which is 35 feet to midline of roof, the parking standards, and it provides all the amenities. In addition, this is an appropriate area for multifamily since it is near major commercial corridors such as Fairview and 5 Mile, and also the bus route 16 runs along 5 Mile, which is a little over 1/8 of a mile from the site to the east. It complies with all the required findings, and commenting agencies said they can approve it. The project can be approved with conditions. Although ACHD will restrict on-street parking along Florence to ensure the fire department has access to site. Finally, the planning team is recommending a walking path along the north side of the property to provide more of a direct pedestrian connection through the property. However, the applicant has concerns with this pathway location because it would potentially impact the private open space associated with the residents of this building. The applicant is also proposing to provide affordable housing income restricted units on the east side of the site, and the number of units are actually listed below. Only of the 28 units on the east side, only 3 will be market rate. The rest will be varying levels of income restricted from 60% below to 50 to 40. So they are providing affordable income. In addition, the applicant will provide a variety of social services for the residents of the project. The planning team did receive a letter from a neighbor expressing concerns with the project. These concerns generally fell into the areas of traffic impacts, compatibility, and the on-street parking along Florence. To address these concerns, I would note that there is capacity on the adjacent roadways to support the project, and the project density is compatible with the surrounding properties adjacent to the north and to the west. It is also compatible with the development that is anticipated to occur in the surrounding neighborhood given the zoning and the comprehensive land use designations. The on-street parking along Florence will be restricted to provide clear fire access to the project. However, the houses along Florence Drive provide off-street parking within garages, and they have guest parking within their driveway aprons. In summary, the planning team recommends approval of the PUD and the development agreement modification. Motions needed is to approve the PUD and a recommendation for the DA modification to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moser. We'll next hear from the applicant. Please start with your name and address, and we'll start with 10 minutes.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. Stephanie Hopkins with KM Engineering at 9233 West State, Boise 83714. Let me pull up my presentation really quick so I can share it with you guys.
Great.
Hopefully you can all see that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission, for having me here tonight. David did a wonderful job summarizing our requests. I'll try my best to avoid repeating him too much, but we're excited to be here tonight to talk about the Celebration Acres project. We're requesting a rezone, which is really a vehicle to modify the existing development agreement on the property, to remove the density cap, as David mentioned, and to update the conceptual development plan that's attached to that agreement. And then we're also proposing the planned unit development to include a phasing plan and then an amenity package. We have met with city staff, ACHD, and neighbors a few times in preparing this application, and feel that it's consistent with what the city wants, as consistent as it can be with what neighbors want to see in the area, and is complying with all the conditions of approval that have been put forth so far. As David mentioned, the property is located southwest of Fairview and 5 Mile Road. It's approximately 2.95 acres. It's an undeveloped infill piece. As you can see, it's adjacent to multifamily, which is located to the northwest and the northeast.
and single family to the south and east, as well as a manufactured home community to the south. It's currently zoned R2D with a development agreement. Is adjacent to R2D, which is the medium density residential, and then R3D, which is to the north, multifamily residential, and a mix of residential zones to the south and east that primarily includes single family residential, as well as commercial designations to the north. We are located near a major transportation corridor. Fairview and 5 Mile are both arterial roadways, and transit options, as well as existing commercial development, employment opportunities, existing services, and a fairly well-developed area. So a little bit of history on this site. This property was initially annexed and zoned to the city in 1999. It was rezoned to the R2D with a development agreement in 2007. At that time, the comprehensive plan future land use map was also modified, but as David mentioned, that's since been updated. It's now compact. The DA we are proposing to modify is the result of that decision in 2007. It currently limits the development to 10 dwelling units an acre, which would be about 29 dwellings, and we're asking to increase that density to allow for a density that's consistent with the R2D district. As you can see, this is an overview of what it looks like kind of now. It's blurry, but there's been considerable development since 2007. To the west, there's a multifamily development that was constructed, and then also to the east, the northeast. Just to give you an idea, our properties outlined in red, and then you can see that there's industrial and single family uses to the west, as well as undeveloped land to the east, which has now been filled in. So the comprehensive plan designates this area as compact. We are requesting a zoning, or our zoning designations in line with that, and our densities in line with that as well. We're actually below the maximum target density for the compact area, which is 15 dwelling units an acre. We're at 13.5 dwelling units an acre, and we're also below the maximum density allowed in the R2 district, which is the 14.5 dwelling units an acre. We're fulfilling multiple comprehensive plan goals and the intent of the comprehensive plan by building a connected community and filling an area that has previously been undeveloped and has kind of created a void in between developments, adding higher density infill within this area of the West Bench planning area, and providing a mix of housing opportunities to provide affordable housing component that's badly needed in Boise right now. So we are requesting, as mentioned, to modify the development agreement. This is our original concept plan. As you can see, it was initially shown with 8 residential buildings, 4 of which were 4-plex buildings and 4 of which were 3-plex buildings. There was one central drive that went from Florence through the site and then connected Florence Drive and Irving Court on the east part of the property. We're now proposing 6 residential unit buildings and 1 7 buildings and 1 community center. We're proposing 6 unit buildings, which are on the periphery of the site here, and then 1 4-plex building, which is a 2-story building here, for 40 units overall. 30 of those are going to be 2-bedroom units, 6 3-bedroom units, and 4 4-bedroom units. So we're really hoping to increase the kind of housing and the type of unit that's available in this area with those different housing or those different unit types. Just to provide you some context, this is obviously not to scale, but just to show kind of how the streets are now proposed to connect with existing streets. We're proposing Bonanza Street, which will be a drive aisle connecting Florence Way to Irving Court, and then a private road that'll connect from Florence Drive on the east part of the site to the interior, which is the parking area. So that'll be the bulk of parking for the project. So overall, we're proposing 3 points of access, which will really connect this whole area and kind of add to the circulation that's existing here. So we're proposing six unit buildings overall on the periphery of the site, as mentioned. These will all be 3 stories apiece, and then 1 4-plex building, which is going to be 2 stories. The community center will be 1 story, and will include some communal meeting space, desks and computers for folks that maybe won't have those in their homes. We are meeting or exceeding the building and parking setbacks throughout the site, and we'll be installing vinyl fencing on all of the boundaries. We're going to be replacing a fence that needs some repair on the south boundary, and otherwise just adding fencing where it's needed. We're providing a clubhouse, playground, and open space throughout. As we've mentioned, the community center is essentially located here. We'll provide a tot lot for children to come play that's also centrally located, and then there's some kind of smaller open space areas located throughout the site for folks to go kick a soccer ball around or hang out. We are exceeding the required number of parking spaces. We are providing 62 and 58 are required. This is our landscape plan. It's been modified since we initially submitted the application to include the changed the electrical units that'll be included. So our HVAC is actually going to be on the ground now instead of within the wall units. And as such, we've provided some screening there as required by code. And then we've also relocated the trash enclosure on the west part of the site per Public Works' recommendation and request. So otherwise, we are providing a little over 1 acre of total open space, which is about 35% of the total site. I think code requires 10%, so we're exceeding that requirement. And as mentioned, we are trying to provide some kind of vegetative green space for residents throughout the development. As David mentioned, we are proposing to phase this project. That's part of our planned unit development request. The first phase will include 5 buildings, 5 residential buildings, and 1 the community center. And then the second phase, we will be including the last 2 buildings, both of which are 6plexes. And then we will be dedicating Bonanza Street, which is this roadway here, to ACHD. In the first phase, we will be constructing everything to ACHD standards. So this road will actually be installed as a public right-of-way, but we'll be dedicating with the second phase. These are just some examples of the residential building elevations. We're proposing a variety of building materials with board and batten siding. We have stone veneer and then various color schemes that we're proposing. Most of the buildings are 3 stories, so they will vary with finishes on the front and rear, and then color schemes change throughout. And this is our 4plex building that we're proposing, which is at the north part of the site. We have designed these to try to be as consistent as possible with existing development to make sure that it's complementing what's already in the area while being kind of unique and different too. So the clubhouse is going to be located there, and this is what it's proposed to look like. It'll have similar building materials, a little bit different color scheme, but it's a 1-story building that's proposed to be fairly open for folks to easily use it. So as David mentioned, we are requesting to modify condition 3 in the site-specific conditions approval. We're showing our revised site plan with the pedestrian pathway on the north side of our drive aisle, and then kind of going south to adjacent to the buildings. We think that this central location will really work better for residents and will make it easier for folks to circulate through the site rather than through private open space and at the rear of some buildings. So this is the proposal that we're making for the revision to that condition. So we really do believe that our development is consistent with the city's vision, the comprehensive plan, and it's going to be providing additional residential opportunities in an infill area that's close to existing development, services, transit opportunities, commercial and employment opportunities, and we'll be providing an affordable housing option that's just really not as readily available as it maybe should be in Boise overall, but especially this area. We're complying with the dimensional standards of the R2 zone, and really do believe this density in this product is going to be appropriate and compatible with what's already existing. So we're in agreement with the staff report and the recommended conditions of approval, with the exception of the request we're making to modify condition 3. And I believe a couple of our clients are on the line too that can maybe speak to the affordable housing component of the project if anyone has specific questions there, I'd be more than happy to have them ping in. Otherwise, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. Before we get to questions, I'm just going to check to see, do we have a designated representative from the neighborhood association present, somebody who is here to speak on behalf of the neighborhood? If so, please virtually raise your hand. I do see a hand up from Mr. J. Jay, are you here to represent the neighborhood association?
Madam Chair, there is no neighborhood association project.
Oh, great. Okay. So Jay, hang tight. We will go to questions from the commission, and then we'll get to public testimony where everybody will have a chance to speak that would like to speak. So questions from the commission. And I guess while everybody's gathering their thoughts, I'll start with a quick question. I'm wondering, Ms. Hopkins, can you please just talk a little bit more about the modification that you'd like to see? Can we see that picture again? And would you, the city is proposing the sidewalk stay along the road, and you're proposing it doesn't. And so can we maybe hear from actually, let's maybe start with Mr. Moser, I think, to hear why that proposal doesn't work for the city, and then maybe from Ms. Hopkins again, if there's anything to discuss there.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. What the city's condition it would require is essentially taking this sidewalk that they have shown along the north and then extending it straight across the north property line as to connect to Bonsai, or so providing almost a straight connection from Florence to Florence. So the neighbors wouldn't have to walk through the parking lot area and follow that sort of more meandering route to get to Florence. So just providing that more direct pedestrian connection. That's essentially what the city's requirement is to extend that sidewalk.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Moser. That makes sense to me. And then Ms. Hopkins, you would prefer the meandering just because of the community aspect of it. Is that right?
Thank you. Yes, Madam Chair, we would prefer that the path be constructed the way we've depicted here, just so that it doesn't go basically through people's private kind of open space area. We want that to be preserved and open for folks if they want to have, things that would be otherwise encumbered by a path. So, and we also do believe that it would be a more direct route for folks too, if they're, I think for the most part, going from their home to car to maybe the tot lot or the community center.
Okay, thank you. Can I see maybe a picture of Florence? Like, is there a road that runs alongside that property on that north side?
I don't think so. Let me see if I can.
I believe it's a multifamily development along to the north.
Yeah, it's housing.
Okay.
Whoa, go back. Yeah.
Oh shoot, sorry, I'm gonna.
No, yeah, that's perfect. But it's
that one work okay?
Right? Is that?
There's a row of houses.
There's a row of houses.
Or carports, maybe.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Gillespie, and then Mr. Moser. Okay, sorry. Any other questions from the commission?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So question for the applicant, Ms. Hopkins. Ms. Hopkins, your proposed sidewalk route kind of right down through the parking lot in front of people's houses or buildings. I don't understand how taking the public right down through the parking lot and by everybody's cars is a great idea as opposed to just straight across. In terms of preserving people's privacy, I'm just not sure how having the public encouraged to walk through a private parking area is a great idea.
Sure, Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie. I think the primary reason that our client wants to direct traffic through the parking lot and through the development rather than through the green space is that we believe that most of the people that will be trafficking this pathway will be residents of the development. So for the most part, I think the way that it may function is that folks are going to go to their home and then maybe use that pathway to walk either south or west, or if maybe someone's walking from building G, which is on the far west side, and wants to go to the bus stop or something, they'll probably use the internal path and then go along Irving rather than maybe through the green space. My understanding is that they just really want to preserve that to keep it as open as possible so that it's more usable, rather than having a concrete path kind of go through the center of it. So we may, I think Jay that was trying to ping in earlier may have a little bit better of an explanation too. If he speaks later, I might be able to speak to that a little bit better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I have one more question if no one else does.
Please, Commissioner Gillespie.
So this is a question for David. David, what I'm seeing on the left, it says DA modification request. When did the city actually get that final picture and layout? Was it last Friday? Because I was just a little bit confused about when we actually had the proposed plan for the PUD and the buildings and the layout.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, the actual final revised site plan came in, and the DA came in last week after the packet came due, and it was submitted as late correspondence. Although the only change from the revised is essentially extending the sidewalk up along the west side of the parking lot back over to Florence, making that sidewalk connection. And then there's some additional changes to accommodate public works solid waste backup requirements on the trash enclosure. I don't think there was any major significant change in the site plan per se. There might have been some changes.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So David, I guess my question is, how long did the public get a really good opportunity to respond to something close to what we're looking at tonight?
Yes, this plan is essentially the same as the plan that's been uploaded and available to the public from the beginning, just with the slight modification to the sidewalk along up on Florence and some slight adjustment for to the trash enclosure location.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Question for David, and David, just to follow up on that, and then the next step in this process, the public will have another opportunity to see this again through design review. Is that correct?
This will require design review. I don't know if this is a staff level. Actually, I might be commissioned given the number of units, and this will have to go on to council for the DA modification as well.
Great, thanks.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
I had a question about the fire access and the no parking. So if I understand it, the no parking on the fire access is related to the width of the street. I know some of the comments that we read were regarding that no parking due to that. Is that, my understanding is due to the width of the street, there should already be no parking along those streets. Is that correct, or is that kind of due to this development?
I believe it's the Howie district that required it, and I believe it's due to the width of that of Florence Drive. I think Florence Drive is 33. Let's see here. I'd have to double check the specifics on it, but I believe it is related to the width of the street along Florence and trying to provide that clear fire access.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
Just a quick follow-up. So it's not in fact due to the development. It should be restricted as is due to the width of the street and not because of this development specifically.
It's not currently restricted at point because it's a dead end road. So with this development, it puts that additional traffic.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So next we will, hang on 1 second. Sorry. Next we'll move on to our sign up sheet, and we actually do have somebody signed up, but I don't see them on the line. I have Christopher Cockrell signed up. If you're in attendance tonight, please virtually raise your hand. And then not seeing him, we'll move on to anybody else. So if you are online tonight and you'd like to testify on this item, please virtually raise your hand. If anybody would like to testify on this item tonight, please virtually raise the hand and we'll just go down the line. We'll start with Jay. Just give us a second to unmute you, and then we'd love to hear what you have to say. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. And Jay, you can go ahead and unmute and turn on your camera if you'd like, whenever you're ready.
Hey, good evening, everybody, Madam Chairman and all the commissioners. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I would just want to testify as a developer, along with Elida, a respected community nonprofit in the area. We felt that the reason not to connect the sidewalk was just simply most of the services and transportation services are going to be on 5 Mile. And we felt like the CAM engineering that most of the folks who are going to be coming through the property are actually going to be residents. And so there wasn't a real need. If someone really needed to get to the other side, there's a way to go through there. But looking at and surveying the residents, we thought that 5 Mile was the way to go in terms of that. So that's why I just want to speak on that issue.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, we could have had you speak with Ms. Hopkins as part of the applicant team, but we're glad to have that perspective nonetheless. Thank you for that information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that wanted to speak on this item tonight? Please virtually raise your hand. Last call.
Madam Chair, we do still have some attendees online. I'm not sure if they're part of the applicant team or if they just don't want to speak tonight.
I see that.
And would love to hang out with us.
Okay, if you don't know how, yeah, I don't know how else to call it, but we'd love to hear from you if you're on the line and hoping to speak to the commission tonight on item number 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move on. And so the public portion of the hearing is now closed and the item is before the commission. Oh, we need a rebuttal. I'm so sorry.
No adverse testimony, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, there's no testimony. So perhaps you still have something to add or maybe not. Do you want to waive your rebuttal? You'd have 5 minutes if there's more to add, Ms. Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, I guess in closing, thank you for the time, and we appreciate all of staff's coordination on this and getting it kind of ready to present to you guys and ready to construct. We're excited about this project, and I think it'll be a really great addition to this part of Boise and to Boise as a whole. So with that, we respectfully request for your favorable recommendation and approval of the PUD and recommendation of the DA modification. And that, I guess, I'll close. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins. Okay, so now it's closed and the item is before the commission, and I am open for a motion.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Well, I'll go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good. I move that we recommend approval of CAR 20-20 and approve PUD-0046 with all the terms and conditions in the staff report, including the northern straight shot sidewalk connecting the 2 ends of Florence.
Second.
Great, we have a second from Commissioner Squires. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
First of all, let me commend Ms. Hopkins and her team. I'm I'm really happy to see this kind of product in this part of the city. And I'm amazed there wasn't more public comment or opposition, but hey, so be it. I think on the sidewalk, I think you need both that straight shot across, because what we're trying to encourage is we're trying to connect those two ends of Florence for the people who live on both sides of Florence so that they can walk through and we can create a more connected neighborhood. I just don't think a 5-foot sidewalk at ground level is gonna be detrimental to the usefulness of that green space. You can berm it, you can meander it, it can be interesting. But the whole point is to connect those two ends of Florence for other people, not just the people who want to access the services on the site. So I think you've got a great product, and I think that ability to connect it by sidewalk is really nice. So there you go.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Squires.
I'm just really excited to see this project. When we listened to the housing density ordinance a couple of meetings ago, this is exactly what we were hearing is needed, in that 30 to 60% range AMI. So I think the DA modification makes sense based on the development patterns in the area and the change of the comprehensive plan. So I think absolutely we should make that recommendation to council. I think, the interconnectivity for the area is great. It's close to transit, it's close to commercial, employment. I just think that this is the perfect place for this project, and just want to commend the applicant for a great project. Look forward to it.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I'm in favor of the motion, strongly in favor of the motion. I think it's a great project. I'm going to second all the comments by Commissioner Gillespie and Commissioner Squires. I agree about the walking path. I think when we take a step back, we're looking at connectivity, for the whole area, not just the site. So it makes total sense to me to have that connection running, across the property and connecting Florence Street. And then I just want to commend the design team on their efforts here. I think the site plan is an improvement over the previous iteration that was in the DA. And, I think it's a good lesson that if you want to get a project, approved, meet or exceed the setbacks, meet or exceed the parking requirements, meet or exceed the bicycle parking requirements. And they've done all of that here. And I think the zoning is absolutely appropriate for the area. So I look forward to seeing this development become a reality. Nice job.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Blanchard.
I'm also in support of the motion because I think it's probably the easiest way to just get this thing moved forward. I'm kind of half of one, six of the other on the sidewalk, but I do want to commend Stephanie on the project. It's I'd be very interested to sidebar on this at some point and find out what kind of capital stack you use to be able to make these rents work. And I'd also like to know more about, it sounds like what they're talking about is wraparound services here for the residents. And so I think this is something that we really don't have very much of in Boise. I think it's a great spot for it. And I think this could be a really good object lesson for other developments around the city if that is indeed what they're providing. So good job.
Great. Okay, we have a motion on the table to recommend approval for CAR 20-20 and to approve PUD 20-46 at 10881 West Florence Drive. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Sen.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Squires.
Aye.
Blanchard.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Gillespie.
Aye.
Linfrock.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you so much, everybody. Happy New Year.
Night of unanimity.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.